If you'd like to participate in the discussion or leave us feedback, you can contact us at levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. If you like the content and want to hear more of the show, subscribing will ensure you don't miss an episode. New episodes come out almost every Wednesday. Also, please review, tell a friend about the podcast, or share with your gaming group. Now sit back and enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Level Up Gaming Podcast. My name is Aaron, and joining me once again, I have Josh. Josh, how are you doing today?
Oh man, I am getting ready for summer. How about you?
Summer is right around the corner. Yes, I have a lot of fun things planned. We got a trip this weekend again. we're finally after this one. The kids don't have to go anywhere for a little bit. That's a nice thing. So
that's nice. Yeah, my kids' school's ending, so they're going to be home, and I'm tired. I just like to cool things off, make it a little bit less bombastic, let's say. You know, with all the events, all the school events, all the little things we got to get done, homework, the assignments, the plays, the music. Let's take it down a notch. Let's relax for a bit.
Okay, that sounds good. So for this summer, we're going to do the lazy summer of GMing. So we're going to talk about how to make our stories less epic.
That sounds really good too. You know, you don't always have to save the world, or from the GM perspective, you don't always have to destroy the world.
That's very true. Yes, you don't always have to tell this grand epic of a tale. Again, just putting your players in the driver's seat can sometimes be the level of epic you need.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can still write stories. You can still give them stakes, things to strive for, motivations, but it doesn't have to be world shattering, planet ending, universe destroying. It could be less.
Yeah, you can still have a very engaging, compelling story that is less than this grand fantasy odyssey, that spans over time and space, and has tons and tons of characters. Yeah.
So, I was thinking about this as I was doing some rewrites. I'm moving forward with the Mega Dungeon, and probably by the time this is live, we're going to be playing it. And one of the big things I was thinking about was, what's the goal? What sort of goal do I have? And the first thing that pops in my head whenever I write a longer story, whenever I try and put together a big thing, is I go for the big, massive, world-ending, world-shattering, destructive forces that the players have to... Because, ladies and gentlemen, listeners, young and old, I played way too many video games. And those JRPGs will always have you starting out, jumping rope or chasing your way through some caves, and by the end, you're fighting God. You're punching a universe in its face. You're just taking down beasts of unimaginable destruction in the void, beyond time. And that's where I end up with all of my stories, and we just can't do that all the time. We need to bring it down.
No, you have to have more grounded stories, things that again, it's about breaking up, even if for nothing else. You have to do it because you have to break up all those epic stories with stuff that is less than epic. You can't keep, unless you're me, apparently, you can't keep eating the same flavor of ice cream or go to the ice cream store and keep getting the same thing all the time. But I can do that. But, a lot of people get bored of doing that. And so they want to have a couple of things that they go to.
Well, it's also interesting for your players. You give different options for them so that they can approach different situations. If you're always, defeating the end of the world, you're going to create characters designed to do that. And they don't get to explore other aspects of role-playing. And I think if we're going to design less epic games, we have to look at games that are inherently less epic for some sort of inspiration. And I think a great place to start is short games. And why do short games have much lower stakes than the big bombastic epic games? Because they are short games.
Yeah, you have less time to build up that epic story. Typically, epic requires a level of build up that a short game just tends not to offer. You can have very fun games that are short, and I'm not saying that you can't make epic short games. Just they have to be really, really well constructed, and typically they're piggybacked on like a longer game.
Or there's like a lot of history from a different game, and they're piggybacked off a game or piggybacked off a story, or it's one of those one shots where everybody comes in at max level, and we're gonna have a massive big brawl. But those are fun in themselves. Short games, either one shots or your couple of month adventures are usually much more grounded because the stakes are lower. There's more personal stakes, or they're put in a smaller sandbox. You get your long games, and one of the reasons you end up with that massive fight at the end, where saving the planet, is power creep. It just feels weird for demigods to be going and rescuing cats from trees.
Yeah, and again, I agree with that. I mean, like again, the problem with not being able to piggyback the game like in a short game is that you're always going to have that. It's just really hard, like even like a one shot, like just put it from the context of a one shot sort of game, to be able to build up some like crazy epic thing, unless you like it really depends on how you like launch the setting of the game to get to the epic thing. Because the thing that tends to make the games epic are the investment from your players to the characters and to the story overall. So if they don't have any, like, you're just handing them pre-builds, they have no investment or connection to those characters or the story. It's just like, oh, this is just a piece of paper with stats on it that I'm driving here today. It's a lot different than in the long game. And again, you're right. The long games have the power creep. They have this build up as you sort of work through your levels, and then you end up in situations where you're fighting things that are far beyond what you could have ever imagined doing. And again, I don't know if there's a true way in like the really, really long term. When I say a long term game, I'm talking like a year, 2 year style game, to make that a not epic game. It could have started as a not epic game, but if you let it go long enough, your long game's probably going to be pretty epic.
Yeah, just by sheer volume. Yeah. So let's say a long game in terms of, you got your one shots, which is 1 or 2 nights. You've got your mid-range games, which is usually maybe a month, maybe 2. And then your long games, I put them at 6 months. These are stories. These are like novels that you've written, right? This is like a full TV series that you are playing out with your players, and you don't have to go full on crazy mode with it. It can be smaller, and in order to do that, you need to keep the stakes lower, but you need to still require high effort. This is where you get that. How do you keep your stakes low, but keep the interest of your players? Give them a lot that they've got to get done in order to get to reach their goals.
So you're talking about bigger stakes. Are you necessarily speaking to like the threat that the players are facing? Yeah. Or are you okay?
Yeah, it could be the threat that they're facing. It could be the goal that they're trying to achieve. I think that the sort of stakes that you need to have in one of these games that isn't so bombastic would be something personal, something relatable, something related to their character and their character development. If you've got, a group of mercenaries, maybe it's a treasure trove that they're trying to find, and there's a big adventure where they've got to, track down the different pieces and parts to find the map, to travel the world, to get the different rings that'll open up the treasure chest that'll get them their riches. But it's not the end of the world. It's an epic adventure with small stakes, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be so crazy. You could have something more like fighting the corruption inside of a city. They're working with different people, and they're putting together political groups and building up the different the different groups and peoples and organizations in the city to maybe make a political move. And that can be fun and interesting and still have a lot of role play opportunities, and still have combat opportunities if that's the way you want to play that sort of thing. But it could be all confined within a small sandbox, very personal stories that can be told, and it doesn't have to be so crazy.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, again, yeah, I guess just choosing just a less. I don't know. You said it better than me. Just gonna say a less epic game, but I was like, as we're talking about, it's a less epic game. I'm like,
Yeah,
it just
I've tried to
choosing a more
switch between
mundane, a more mundane story topic, maybe to go through a more maybe gritty, real sort of story topic instead of a more fantasy based, save the world, save save the grandiose thing sort of thing. So like your mission is more grounded in something that you might do, or like a modern hero might do, within your real world.
Yeah. And making it personal, giving like small stakes like that is also going to relate back to your players and their characters a lot better. So it'll give them a lot to work with, for character, or for character growth, or emotional work, or just like trying to see what would my character do in this situation. Because if you're just going to go and fight an evil god that's planning on destroying the world, well, there's not really an option. You go and you punch him, right? You make sure you punch him hard. But if there's like personal stakes and opportunity for choices and development of your character, that's a game that your players can get more invested in without it having to be, sort of an absolute crazy roller coaster of a game. We talk about putting people on track, and making them follow, where we want the story to go, but it doesn't need to be, the biggest roller coaster ever. It can be, the little choo-choo train that goes around the track and just helps people that are local to them.
Not to say, I guess we're talking about making games less epic. I think just like the overall grandiose story less epic than being a good story. Like it should still be engaging to your players.
Yes.
And so like don't confuse epic with engagement here.
And I think that's really the thing we want to talk about here, is you don't need to make, a massive story about saving the world, or, whatever it is, winning a war, overthrowing a kingdom, defeating a god, whatever it is. You don't have to do that to make a good, engaging game that your players are going to relate to and enjoy and talk about afterwards.
Yeah. So why would we not want to always save the world? I guess again, when I say if you have a long game, it goes on long enough, you're probably going to end up saving the world in some way, unless you're playing some like weird. We did play a Mafia game, which had no point to like these overall things, which is like an indefinite game. So,
Yeah, I've played some post-apocalyptic games where you're not saving the world so much as sort of like trying to rebuild it, and
trying not to die.
trying not to die, trying to build a civilization, trying to fight off raiders. Yeah, that can be fun. But yeah, the longer a game goes on, the bigger the chances of running into one of those. Well, we've solved all the local issues, so I'm gonna have to throw something terrible at them. That's fine. I'm not saying you don't do that eventually. I'm saying if you're writing a story, if you're going to plan out, a 6-month, a 12-month adventure, it can be lower stakes with a higher level of personal involvement, more effort that they have to put in to reach those stakes. And I think your players are really going to appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I think, it's sort of a trope to make the saving the world thing. I was thinking about your post-apocalyptic example there, which is sort of like the antithesis of that and more of like the not epic game at all.
Yeah.
It's an indefinite game that you sort of play that there is no epic stake to the post-apocalyptic game. You failed. You're in the failure of the world.
Yeah. And you're there and you're trying to make the most of it. And there's all sorts of things you can throw at, mutants and raiders and just like the worst sort of people are always the people that survive the world, the end of the world. Or maybe the end of the world is what causes them to be the worst people. And it's a very fun way to have a less epic, more personal story. Like what it's a lot of the games that we play, a lot of the games that we write are asking questions about, what do we want? And a lot of the times you get the power fantasy. If you had all the power in the world, what would you like to do? Well, I'd like to go, save the universe. And that's that big epic game. But if you had just enough power and the time and the effort, what would you like to do locally? What would you like to do to make your life better? And a lot of the post-apocalyptic games, that's what you're answering is like, I'd like to keep my friends and family safe. I'd like to own a garden. I'd like to, make sure that raiders and mutants don't trample my azaleas. And I'd like a faithful dog and to go hunting out in the wild. All of that sounds great. That's your post-apocalyptic adventure. No, that's just what you want to do today. Just stop lying to yourself.
Raiders and mutants don't trample my azaleas.
Do you want raiders and mutants trampling your azaleas?
No, definitely not. It's just a very funny.
Well, I try and put some levity in this podcast.
No truer words ever.
But you can think about that also when you're writing these the less epic stories. Like, hey, if you were in a small town that corrupt politicians and corrupt cops were abusing the citizens, and you had the opportunity to do something about it, but it was going to take time and effort, would you? And that's an interesting question that you can have your players answer over the course of a couple of months. Like, are they willing to put in the effort? Are they willing to see the failures and sacrifice what they had to in order to help some people that either they barely know or that they do care about? Are they willing to be heroes without being, heroes of the kingdom? Maybe just being heroes of, the slums.
It's sort of like the you can put even a mundane game or a less epic game in an epic setting, like the stories of the world that are behind the war that is going on, or or the political strife that's going on through the overthrow of a kingdom. That isn't to say that let your players be second fiddle to like they aren't the supporting cast for the people who are doing the epic thing. So like that don't mistake what I'm saying for that. But like more so that they are doing the human thing in as the world sort of revolves around them.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, have you seen Andor?
No.
Okay. Um, well, I'm not going to spoil anything, but I will say to you and to our dear listeners, it's very good. It's very, very good. And it's obviously Star Wars, but nobody's a Jedi fighting laser swords against their dad, or the Emperor of the universe or anything like that. It's a lot of people, doing what they can to sort of put together a rebel alliance and make a difference. But they're working in the shadows. They're not going to be the big heroes, and they're not going to, they go on a couple of jobs. They got this thing happen. They got that thing. They've got to make personal sacrifices. They have to make empowered arguments for the people to like rise up and do the right thing. And that really is, the epitome of an epic story that isn't necessarily, it is saving the world, but it's not doing it in an overt way, right? It's saving the universe.
It's a very, yeah. I say like again, it's a more human story because you think about the fantastical within the world of Star Wars, that the Jedi and like the fight against the Empire and all that. Like and this ragtag band of basically who come up and fight who join the that is the epic story, and what you're describing is how did even the Rebel Alliance come to be? And like how did we build this faction?
Exactly. And if you look at these lower stake stories, they can be the background for the epic, right? If you save this one little city from corruption, if you fight against the oppressors in this one little burg, or if you spend the effort to make the world better for some people, those things have a chance to snowball into something bigger. And maybe the game lasts longer and you see it snowball into something bigger. Or maybe you come at it.
I sort of part to your game there, because you sort of want a good break from what you're trying to do to where you're going to go. And I guess you don't have to part to it, but I'm going to say it is nice to give an end to maybe the storyline and the throughput that you've been putting together for the less epic game before you walk into the longer epic game. So at least put a bow on what you've been doing before you step into the next piece, like it's the second chapter of what you're doing.
Yeah. I always thought it'd be nice to have, and what I'm trying to do is to build a world and have your players do a small, not epic game that affects one area, and then have another story in a different area that is somehow affected by what happened in the first game. And just to build back on this and have multiple stories that tell the story of the world. And they don't have to be these big epic stories, but they can build upon each other, and it can make your players enjoy the world that they're in, to care about the world and to care about what's going on, even if they're seeing it from different eyes with each passing story. And then at some point you're gonna have to go and kill God. That's just how it's gonna work.
Again, you let the game go on long enough, it's gonna get pretty epic. Okay, so fair warning to you that you could have all the best intentions of trying to deal with a less epic game, and around the 6 month mark, as you approach that year mark, I'm going to guarantee that they're going to have wound up potentially part, if not all, of the story. And you've got to then come up with something that's a higher stakes thing if you want to continue that story. So, like, your game will eventually run into the more epic side of things because they're going to accomplish the mundane goals or the less than epic goals, which then lead into your epic goals. Like that will happen. But like it's a better way to bridge them into the epic storytelling is by starting with something that is less than epic. By starting with something that's way lower stakes, it helps get you to something that's way higher stakes because it's more believable. Like, oh, my characters have all of this knowledge. They have all these connections now in what they were doing. And now, we realize that after all this time, after one whole year of all this, that there are these other nefarious forces that are behind the scenes. And now we have to step up even further than where we ever were. We were doing, the human thing of building this organization, but now our organization needs to rise above where it's stationed and actually go, fight the gods.
Yeah. But if that first story, if that low stakes, high effort story that you put together that lasted, 6 or 9 months or whatever it is, if it has a satisfying conclusion, if your players feel like they've actually accomplished something, that can be in of itself a complete story. If they want to keep going, they want to keep going. That's fine. And then you can start moving into some more of the epic territory. But you can write those less epic stories and make your players really care about the world that they're in.
Yeah.
It's just good. Good to do.
Yeah. I mean, again, my whole thing here, I'll say it one more time, is just know when to sort of end that story because your less epic games will have an expiration point on them. It's just very hard to not produce this inner web and then eventually kind of creep into the epic at some point. If you want to go there, that's a different story. Like that's a whole don't say I'm trying to dissuade you from it.
Definitely write a conclusion to your less epic story. Make it a good conclusion, make it a final point, and then give yourself an opening if you want to keep going. But like make a final point so that your players feel like that wasn't just a prequel to the actual story, which is the epic one. We're gonna go punch mountains or something.
Yes, you don't want them to. You definitely want to, have a good delineation between those two.
Yeah. Yes, I think that is very important, and I think that we could make some really good stories if we don't always go for the swing for the fences every time.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to add to this one? It's a little bit of a shorter topic, but I think we hit the points really, really well.
I think that we could
go on and on and make this really epic. So let's keep going.
What I was trying to think of here, like we've done a bunch of let's make a one shots, and I've had some requests to go and work on longer stories.
Okay.
With like some of my players, they like the format of the let's make a one shots and how we had set them up, and we're wondering if we could go and make a longer story with the same sort of style and function. And maybe that's something we want to think about is, we don't have to go for big stakes. We can write a small stake story that has a longer time frame to it. And that might be something we can do in the future.
Yeah, no, that'd be a great thing to take a look at and kind of go for. I think that makes a lot of sense. I'd be interested in so instead of let's make a one shot, let's make a really long story, part 1.
No, we'd have to make a much better acronym for it. But I think
we couldn't do LMAO anymore, so it had to be something else. I'll let the brilliant minds of Josh and your wife come up with the next great acronym.
Yes. I will come up with one and run it past her. And if her eyes literally roll out of her head, then I know I've got a good one.
Yeah, I'm on to something.
Excellent. Okay.
All right. Well, so that's going to wrap us up for the week. If you like telling less than epic stories, or if you have examples of a story that maybe you've told that's less than epic, let us know. Level Up Your Gaming Podcast at gmail.com or facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. Also, the podcast is on YouTube, so go ahead and you can smash the like button there, subscribe there if that's your listening medium. Otherwise, we're on all your favorite podcasting sites, so review it there, subscribe, recommend it to a friend, all those good things. And that'll wrap us up for the week. So for Josh, I'm Aaron. Have a good week, everyone.
Bye.